What if I told you that transforming your entire life doesn't require endless hours, motivation, or luck? Just one focused hour a day. In that single hour, you can rewire your habits, rebuild your confidence, and redirect the course of your future. The book 1 Hour a Day is Enough to Improve Your Life isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter with intention. In this journey, you'll discover how 60 minutes of deliberate action can reshape your mind, body, and destiny. Stay until the end, because by the time you finish listening, you'll realize that your dream life was never out of reach. It just needed 1 hour a day. Chapter 1. The 1 Hour Principle. Why 60 minutes beats scattered effort. The entire strategy rests on a simple, non-romantic insight. Sustained, focused effort, applied consistently, beats spasmodic overwork. 60 minutes is long enough to produce meaningful change and short enough to be defensible against daily friction. Neuroscience and productivity research converge on this point. Attention operates in finite blocks. Switching costs are real and expensive. When you protect a single, uninterrupted hour and orient it to one meaningful outcome, you remove context switching, reduce decision fatigue, and generate momentum that carries into the rest of the day. Start by accepting 3 operating rules. Rule 1. The hour must be single-minded. No multitasking, no notifications, no email triage. The purpose is not to be busy, but to create leverage. Rule 2. The hour must be ritualized with a repeatable beginning and end, so your brain learns the pattern, preparation, focused execution, and consequence. Rule 3. The hour must be measurable. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. Measure one outcome per hour, not vague intentions, but a concrete deliverable you can evaluate at minute 60. Practically structure the hour as a tight micro-protocol. A robust, generic template works for many domains. 5 minutes of preparation, clear intention, short breath work, and a written micro-task. 50 minutes of deep, focused work using a single timer, and 5 minutes of reflection and capture, what finished, what failed, and the next micro-step. The 5-55 structure is deliberately simple because cognitive friction kills complex rituals. Within the 50-minute window, apply 2 tactical habits. First, use outcome orientation. Define the done state. What will convince you the hour moved the needle? For example, write 600 words that form the argument for Chapter 3, or complete a 20-rep circuit for 3 sets at prescribed load. Second, use active feedback loops. Set a tiny checkpoint at 25 minutes to evaluate progress and adjust the second half of the session. Accountability matters. Pair the hour with an external anchor. Schedule it in a calendar block visible to colleagues. Commit to a daily public check-in in a small accountability group, or log each session in a single running spreadsheet. The social cost of failing becomes a lever for consistency. Resist the temptation to over-rotate domains daily. Consistency compounds. Focus on one primary domain for 4 weeks. Skill, health, relationships, income, while allowing one smaller maintenance action for other areas. Chapter 2. Design your 1-hour system, rules, environment, and rotation. Design matters more than motivation. The 1-hour system converts intention into action by removing ambiguity. Start by choosing 3 domains you want to change in a 90-day cycle. Pick 1 primary and 2 secondary areas. A typical triad looks like: primary equals professional skill, secondary A equals health, secondary B equals relationships. Next, allocate the hour blocks across the week. Use a simple rotation: Monday to Friday primary, Saturday secondary A, Sunday secondary B, or an alternative 4-day focus pattern if you prefer variety. Whichever rhythm you pick, publish it in your calendar as non-negotiable blocks labeled with the real outcome, not vague tags. Environment engineering is the second pillar. Build a 1-hour zone where friction is minimal, a charged device, a single app or tool, water, and an offline timer. Remove visual clutter and pre-stage needed materials the night before. If your hour is physical, exercise, lay out gear where you will start immediately. If it is cognitive, study, open the exact document you will work on and have 2 prioritized reference sources at hand. Rituals anchor behavior. Create a 5-step entrance ritual. Silence phone notifications. Front-load a 30-second breath or movement. Read the 1-line intention statement. Set the timer and start. A predictable ritual reduces start resistance. Rules are the guardrails that protect the system. Create 3 no rules. No inbox, no social media, no meetings during this hour. Chapter 3. The Mental Hour. Learning, thinking, and cognitive mastery. The fastest, most predictable returns from a focused hour come from deliberate cognitive work. The mental hour is not passive consumption. It is high-intensity learning and thinking calibrated to long-term skill building. Choose a narrow learning objective, mastering statistical regression basics, speaking French at survival level, or designing 1 persuasive presentation per week. Narrowness forces depth. A robust mental hour template, 5 minutes preparation, clear learning target, flashcard review, or review of last session notes, 45 minutes of deep study using active techniques, and 10 minutes of retrieval and planning. Active techniques matter. Use spaced repetition flashcards for factual recall, the Feynman technique for conceptual mastery, explain the idea in plain language, interleaving for problem skills, and immediate practice, write, code, speak, rather than passive reading. For example, if learning a language, spend 10 minutes on targeted vocabulary cards, 20 minutes on structured input, graded audio, or reading with deliberate comprehension checks, and 15 minutes producing, speaking, or writing with immediate correction. For professional knowledge, apply the read-do rule. Every 20 minutes of reading must produce 10 minutes of application, an outline, a worked example, a draft. Cognitive scaffolding reduces illusion of learning. Use external artifacts to convert our output into persistent assets, annotated notes, a project wiki, a portfolio piece, or a short recorded explanation. The retrieval step is crucial. Spend the final 10 minutes summarizing the core learnings in 1 paragraph, noting the single next experiment or practice item. This closing action is the bridge to the next session and scales memory retention. Track progress with leading indicators, number of flashcards reviewed correctly, problems solved, or minutes of intelligible speech produced. Subjective measures like difficulty level and confidence are useful, but supplement them with objective micrometrics. Guard against fantasy learning. Long hours of passive watching feel productive, but are shallow. Replace passive content with targeted practice and microtests. Finally, integrate reflection. Every 7 sessions, perform a 30-minute retrospective. Which techniques worked, what content accelerated learning, and which obstacles persist. Then redesign the next cycle. The mental hour, executed with deliberate practice techniques and tight feedback loops, converts time into expertise at a rate far faster than traditional study habits. It is the high-leverage use of 60 minutes. Protect it like a professional assignment. Chapter 4. The Health Hour. Building energy, strength, and resilience. Energy is the currency of consistent execution. You cannot protect a transformative hour without physical capacity. The health hour optimizes three interdependent systems: movement, recovery, and metabolic control. Treat the hour as a micro-training block rather than an indulgent workout, a practical, repeatable health hour template. 10 minutes of dynamic warm-up and mobility, 30 minutes of targeted strength or cardio depending on cycle, 10 minutes of mobility/cool down and breath work, and a final closure of 5 minutes for nutrition or planning. Prioritize strength training twice weekly, compound lifts or bodyweight progressions, and conditioning twice weekly, tempo runs, rowing, or HIIT, while using one session for restorative practices, yoga, extended mobility, or cold exposure if appropriate. Strength secures functional capacity and metabolic health. Conditioning supports cardiovascular resilience. Restorative practices reduce systemic inflammation and improve sleep. Each element sustains your ability to concentrate mentally and to maintain the 1-hour habit. Use progressive overload, document reps, loads, and times so your hour produces marginal gains. If you are pressed for recovery, reduce volume but keep intensity. Shorter, more intense sessions preserve adaptation. Nutrition and timing matter. If the hour is morning fasting, prioritize mobility or moderate conditioning rather than heavy lifting unless you consume a small pre-session protein snack. Post-session nutrition should include a protein source and some carbohydrates to support recovery if you train heavy. Hydration, sleep hygiene, and a consistent circadian rhythm amplify the health hour's effect, measure sleep quality, and tweak training timing if energy drops. The health hour can double as active meditation, focused movement, breath control, and mindful attention to sensations reduce stress and increase cognitive control. Track progress in simple metrics: load progression, resting heart rate trends, and subjective recovery scores. Integrate micro habits outside the hour, walks, standing work, and short mobility breaks to keep the physiological system charged throughout the day. The health hour is not about aesthetics, it is a strategic investment in the capacity to do meaningful work and to maintain the mental clarity required for your other 1-hour investments. Chapter 5: The Relationship Hour: Deep Connection, Listening, and Social Capital. Human beings are social animals. Progress in any domain is amplified by strong relationships. The relationship hour is intentional time dedicated to cultivating meaningful connections, partner, family, friends, mentors, or key professional allies. Design the hour to maximize emotional presence rather than surface interaction. A recommended structure: 5 minutes of mental prep, set a positive, curious intention, review recent updates, 40 minutes of uninterrupted interaction, no phones, active listening, open questions, and shared activity, and 15 minutes of follow-up capture, notes, action items, small reciprocal gestures. Active listening is the skill to practice. Use the 3-step loop. Reflect back what you heard, ask one clarifying question, and offer a small value gesture, a relevant article, an introduction, or a practical favor. For romantic relationships, convert 1 hour into micro-rituals. Cook together, walk without screens, or a structured conversation where each partner speaks uninterrupted for 10 minutes about a meaningful topic while the other listens. For friendships, use the hour for depth, share vulnerability, offer support, or coordinate a micro-project that fosters mutual progress. In professional networks, use the hour for mentor sessions, structured feedback, or to make introductions that create reciprocal social capital. Metrics here are relational rather than numeric. Track the depth of conversations, follow through on promises, and frequency of initiated contact. Accountability in relationships matters. Schedule recurring one-hour meetings rather than rely on chance. Small, consistent investments yield outsized returns. People remember who made them feel heard and who followed through on small commitments. Guard against transactional interactions. Avoid turning every session into a networking pitch. Instead, prioritize giving. Finally, use the 15-minute capture to convert the hour into sustained value. Record commitments, schedule the next touchpoint, and send a short gratitude message. The relationship hour converts time into durable trust, and trust compounds into opportunities, support, and emotional resilience. Chapter 6. The Financial Hour, Building Reliable Income and Growing Capital. The financial hour is the deliberate, non-speculative 60-minute session each day that converts your time and skill into reliably increasing financial capacity. Its purpose is not to daydream about riches, but create repeatable behaviors that raise income, reduce unnecessary spending, and compound capital through measurable decisions. Start by defining a clear objective for the next 90 days. Increase net income by X%, launch a revenue experiment that produces Y dollars per month, or raise a specific skill that yields billable work. Once the objective is fixed, divide the financial hour into 3 practical segments: acquisition, 25 minutes, optimization, 20 minutes, and capital deployment, 15 minutes. Acquisition time is active outreach or product completion, writing a pitch, delivering a paid micro offer, closing a consult slot, or creating a short, value-packed asset to sell. Use standardized templates so outreach scales, 3 customizable message templates, a 5-point checklist before sending, and a short follow-up cadence. Track conversion by day: contacts made, replies received, meetings scheduled, sales closed. Optimization time is analysis and friction removal. Review conversion metrics from the last 7 days. Identify the single bottleneck, pricing, copy, funnel, drop-off, and implement one focused fix with a measurable hypothesis. For example, if we shorten the checkout process to 1 page, conversion will increase by 10%. Implement the smallest actionable change that tests this hypothesis within the 20-minute window. Capital deployment time is the disciplined, unemotional allocation of surplus. Move a fixed percentage of monthly net income into reserve and investment. Use strict rules. Reserve first, emergency fund to cover 3 months of fixed costs. Debt second, pay down the highest interest item, then growth experiments, small, testable ventures. Never skip reserve building for speculative plays. Capital optionality is a force multiplier that lets you seize time-limited opportunities without catastrophic risk. The financial hour relies on automation and simple bookkeeping. Automate transfers to designated accounts immediately after income hits. Maintain a 1-page cash flow dashboard that shows inflows, fixed costs, and available discretionary capital, and update it in 5 minutes as part of the financial hour. Chapter 7. The Creative Hour, Production, Iteration, and the Talent Engine. The Creative Hour is dedicated to making things that matter: words, products, designs, experiments, rather than consuming content. Creativity under constraint is not mystical. It is a practice that benefits enormously from structure. Begin by selecting a single creative project you will advance for 90 days, an article series, a prototype, a course module, or a short creative portfolio. The creative hour should be segmented: 10 minutes of rapid ideation and setup, 40 minutes of uninterrupted creation, and 10 minutes of iteration capture. Rapid ideation uses a tight prompt to prevent aimless brainstorming, a one-line project statement, the target audience, and the one outcome this session must produce. The creation block employs a deliberate method to maximize originality and execution. Alternate intensive production with micro-tests. For example, produce a minimum viable output in 20 minutes, an article draft, a prototype screen, a first recording, and then immediately run a tiny test. Post a 100-word excerpt to a small audience, or share a screenshot with a trusted peer for a 24-hour reaction. This immediate feedback shortens the learning loop and prevents sunk cost continuation on weak ideas. Use constraints as a productivity multiplier. Fixed word counts, time-boxed sketching, or a template-driven content framework reduce decision overhead and force smarter choices. Iteration capture is where discipline turns into craft. Record what worked, why you stopped, and the single change you will make in the next session. Keep a rolling creative ledger that aggregates these micro-lessons, so your intuition is trained by data rather than taste alone. The creative hour also includes deliberate skill sharpening. Schedule 2 deep skill weeks per quarter, where the bulk of creative hours are devoted to capability expansion, voice coaching, design sprint methods, copywriting frameworks, rather than output. Chapter 8. The Execution Hour, Systems, Implementation, and the Momentum Engine. Execution is where plans go to become results. The execution hour is devoted to the disciplined translation of strategy into operational reality. Its focus is on systems creation, removal of hidden frictions, and relentless follow-through. Begin by converting quarterly objectives into a compact execution map, 3 weekly milestones, and 9 micro-tasks per week. The execution hour is split into 3 phases: triage and priority alignment, 10 minutes, focused implementation, 40 minutes, and closure and pipeline update, 10 minutes. Triage is not firefighting. It is a brief assessment against the weekly milestones and a strict rule to defer anything that does not move the needle. Use a decision rule. If a task does not materially advance a weekly milestone, schedule it for the maintenance bucket. Focused implementation applies deep work to the highest impact task, shipping a product increment, resolving a key roadblock, or building an automation. The 40-minute block should be uninterrupted, with pre-prepared resources and clear acceptance criteria. Implementing systems reduces future cognitive load. Write a 1-page standard operating procedure for recurring tasks during the execution hour, and delegate or automate them as soon as efficiency favors it. Closure and pipeline update convert work done into reliable next actions, record outcomes, note dependencies, and insert follow-up items into collaborators' queues. Use a 2-minute rule. If a follow-up can be scheduled in under 2 minutes, do it immediately. Momentum is sustained through cadence, weekly sprint meetings, a short public commitments list, and visible progress trackers. Execution hour productivity multiplies when you eliminate recurrent micro-decisions, use templates, decision matrices, and simple heuristics to speed choices. For delegating effectively, use the result, standard deadline model, describe the intended result, the standard of quality, and a fixed deadline. Monitor delegated tasks during the execution hour through a quick status check ritual to avoid cascading delays. Risk management is operationalized here. The execution hour includes a short contingency review. Identify the single most likely disruption for the week and define the one preemptive action that reduces its impact. This forward-looking habit prevents reactive firefighting. Finally, execution scales through feedback loops and public accountability. Maintain a visible weekly scoreboard of key metrics and celebrate small wins to sustain team morale. Execution is not glamour. It is the relentless reduction of friction and the conversion of intention into repeatable systems. Treat the execution hour as non-negotiable system-building time. Consistent investment here yields exponential returns because systems magnify effort across time. Chapter 9. The Recovery Hour. Sleep, Restoration, and Biological Optimization. Recovery is the operational backbone of performance. Without systematic restoration, focused hours decay into diminishing returns. The recovery hour is not passive downtime, but an active, evidence-based block that optimizes sleep, autonomic balance, and long-term resilience. Its components are short and deliberate: 10 minutes of sleep hygiene preparation, 30 minutes of restorative practice, and 20 minutes of sleep planning or restorative nutrition, depending on timing. Sleep hygiene preparation includes reducing blue light exposure, a brief journaling session to clear intrusive thoughts, and setting a consistent pre-sleep ritual. Warm shower, light stretching, and ambient noise. The restorative practice is flexible. It may be a 30-minute nap in the afternoon for acute recovery, a guided slow-breathing protocol for autonomic reset, or a mobility and mild tempo walk that lowers cortisol and increases parasympathetic tone. Use biometric feedback where possible, sleep trackers, heart rate variability, and subjective readiness scores to personalize the recovery hour. The final segment is planning. Schedule sleep windows, allocate caffeine strategically, and decide on pre-sleep meals that promote sleep architecture, small protein plus complex carb rather than heavy fats. For chronic stress management, the recovery hour introduces cognitive reframing, a 10-minute gratitude inventory and contemplation practice that reduces rumination and prepares the mind for deep rest. Include weekly recovery audits to detect overreach. If HRV trends down or focus scores drop, reduce training intensity, or introduce an additional restorative session. Recovery scales with routine, consistent short naps, daily breath work, and rigid sleep onset rituals compound into improved attention during focused hours. For professional contexts where long days are unavoidable, use micro-sleeps and stimulatory hygiene, strategic light exposure and timed exercise to maintain performance without debt accumulation. The recovery hour also covers injury prevention, brief mobility routines, targeting problem areas, and daily tendon/soft tissue maintenance prevent minor issues from becoming chronic burdens that sabotage your ability to execute. Finally, consider sleep as a strategic investment. Prioritize it in scheduling and treat it as a non-negotiable competitive advantage. The recovery hour ensures your 1-hour power sessions remain potent and that the compound benefit of consistent practice is not eroded by avoidable biological decline. Chapter 10. The Integration Hour, Weekly Review, Strategy Synthesis, and the 90-Day Recalibration. The Integration Hour is the strategic anchor that prevents tactical drift. It is a weekly, slightly extended session that synthesizes output, aligns priorities, and recalibrates near-term strategy against a 90-day horizon. Structure the integration hour into 4 parts: data synthesis, 15 minutes, pattern analysis, 20 minutes, strategic decision, 15 minutes, and commitment setting, 10 minutes. Data synthesis aggregates the week's outputs across mental, health, financial, creative, and relational hours into a single dashboard. Progress toward milestones, key metrics, trend lines, and qualitative notes. Pattern analysis asks blunt questions: what moved the needle, what created drag, and what recurring obstacles appear. Use simple decision heuristics, double down on actions with positive marginal returns, pause or redesign those with negative returns, and offload tasks that consistently fail to produce value. Strategic decision converts analysis into a focused change. Update one process, reallocate time blocks, or adjust the 90-day objective. Keep changes small and testable. Avoid wholesale overhauls that disrupt momentum. Commitment setting solidifies the week ahead. Pick 3 weekly priorities that align with the 90-day plan. Assign explicit outcomes and set accountability checks. Public updates, delegation, handoffs. Record these commitments in a visible place and close the hour with a brief reflective prompt. 1 appreciation, 1 frustration, 1 concrete next step. The integration hour also includes a monthly deep dive during the last weekly session of the month. Extend the hour by 30 minutes to review cash flow, skill progression, and relational health against the 90-day target and adjust allocations accordingly. This cadence of reflection and adjustment prevents slow mission drift and ensures that daily 1-hour practices accumulate into strategic change rather than scattered activity. The integration hour is the habit that turns repetition into compound effect. Weekly synthesis, disciplined adjustments, and public commitments produce predictable direction rather than chaotic motion. Protect this hour because it is the cognitive scaffolding that sustains every other focused session. Without it, small wins remain isolated and learning fails to transform into scaled results. Chapter 11. Habit. Architecture. Building bulletproof routines and making them stick habits are the muscle memory of success. The 1-hour system depends not on heroic motivation, but on reliably activated routines you can execute even when willpower is low. Habit architecture is the disciplined design of cues, routines, and rewards that convert a 60-minute intention into automatic behavior. Start with clarity. Define the exact behavior you want, not study, but write 600 words. Ambiguous goals create friction and failure. Use the context rule. Anchor the new habit to a stable, existing event immediately after breakfast, after your first morning coffee, or post-commute. This anchor becomes the cue. Keep the routine ridiculously small at first. Aim for a version of the 1-hour protocol. You can do even on bad days, 20 minutes of focused work within the hour stack. Then expand. This avoids the all-or-nothing trap. Next, design immediate rewards. The brain needs short-term payoff to commit. Pair the hour with a small, consistent reward that does not undermine long-term goals, a quality tea, 5 minutes of sun, or a check mark on a visible habit chart. The visible progress is itself a reward. A streak tracker or calendar with daily green checks converts abstract identity into tangible momentum. Leverage friction wisely, add friction to unwanted behaviors, block social apps during the hour, remove the distraction app from your home screen, and remove friction for desired habits. Pre-open the document, lay out workout clothes, pre-download podcast resources. Use environment shaping aggressively. Your physical and digital spaces should scream the next action: a single browser tab, a timer on the desk, headphones at hand. Habit stacking magnifies gains. Attach micro-habits to the hour that compound value: 5 minutes of journaling after the hour, a short gratitude note, or 2 quick review questions that prime the next session. Accountability closes the loop. Public commitments increase compliance. Declare your 1-hour goal to a small group, post daily completion in a shared chat, or automate a short public tweet when you finish. Social friction is a potent lever. Track 2 metrics: consistency, days completed in a row, and output quality, a simple rating of the hour's deliverable. Use weekly reviews to diagnose slippage. Is the cue failing? Is the routine unappealing? Or is the reward insufficient? Tweak only one variable per week to isolate cause and effect. Build relapse protocols. When you miss 3 consecutive days, implement an immediate micro-challenge, 3 consecutive 30-minute sprints within 72 hours to reset the streak and restore identity. Finally, reframe identity. Instead of "I want to write," adopt "I am someone who shows up for 60 minutes. Small acts of consistency change self-perception faster than big occasional accomplishments. Habit architecture is not about willpower, it's engineering context, reward, and social accountability, so the 1 hour becomes inevitability rather than struggle. Chapter 12: Deep Work and Attention Management. Protecting your cognitive high-leverage time. 1 hour of deep, undistracted focus is dramatically more valuable than 3 scattered hours. Attention management converts the hour into a leverage multiplier by eliminating interruptions and optimizing cognitive state. Begin with the rule of single-task sanctity. The hour must have a single outcome metric: write X, solve Y problem, close Z sales, no simultaneous objectives. Prepare your environment 5 minutes before the block, close irrelevant tabs, put phone on Do Not Disturb, and set a visible timer. Use the Pomodoro variations for endurance: 50 to 10, 45 to 15, or 90/20, depending on task complexity. But maintain a ritualized warm-up, 2 minutes of focused breathing and 1 sentence of intention to prime neural circuits for sustained work. Manage energy, not just time. Match the hour to your chronotype. Schedule cognitively heavy 1-hour sessions when your alertness peaks. For many, this is morning. For others, late afternoon after recovery. Track subjective focus scores 1 to 5 and objective outputs for 2 weeks to map performance windows and then lock the prime hour into that slot. Guard against micro-interruption costs. Every switch wastes cognitive recovery time and slows progress. Batch communication to fixed windows and create auto-responses that explain delay and offer a clear callback timeframe. Use pre-decision templates to reduce low-level decision fatigue, canned email replies, quick checklists, or structured problem-solving frameworks that minimize deliberation. Strengthen attention with ritualized sensory conditions, low-level ambient sound, a consistent scent, or a specific playlist only used for deep work, which acts as an associative cue. Train resistance to distraction through practice, cold exposure of attention. Do short focus practices where you deliberately return your attention after a wandering thought, building attentional muscle. For creative tasks, insert deliberate incubation. Prepare for the hour, with a short, divergent thinking warm-up, free writing, mind mapping. Then enter the focused block with a clear production target. Track flow density, the proportion of the hour in deep, uninterrupted focus. Aim for greater than 80% within a month. When attention collapses, use 2 remediation moves: a brief physical reset, 5-minute walk, or a context shift, switch to a less demanding microtask before returning to the prime objective. Finally, create boundary rituals signaling to others, a visible sign, a calendar block labeled "Do Not Disturb," and a short script to deflect interruptions. Attention management is your most scalable habit. Protect it fiercely, and the 1-hour returns will multiply because high-quality focus produces outcomes that unfocused time never can. Chapter 13. Advanced Learning, Building a Curriculum that Turns Hours into Expertise. The 1-hour system becomes transformational when hours are intentionally sequenced into a learning curriculum. Expertise requires deliberate practice, feedback, and scaffolding. Start by defining the minimal viable skill. What a competent practitioner in your target domain can consistently do. Reverse engineer that competence into micro skills and schedule them across your 90-day cycle. Use the elemental practice model. Identify the 3 to 5 core skills that explain 80% of results in your field and map weekly objectives that train each element with focused repetition. Each mental hour should include rapid warm-up drills, a primary focused practice segment with immediate feedback, self-correction, peer review, or algorithmic testing, and a consolidation exercise that produces a concrete artifact. For example, for public speaking, 10 minutes vocal warm-up, 30 minutes delivering short recorded speeches with immediate playback critique, and 20 minutes polishing a single storytelling arc. Feedback is non-negotiable. Use spiky, high-frequency feedback loops, micro-tests, short client trials, or mentor reviews, so errors surface quickly and correction is cheap. Space repetition is critical. Schedule revisits of key skills at increasing intervals. Interleave practice across related skills to improve transfer. Keep a learning log that records hypothesis, practice protocol, and objective outcomes. This transforms subjective impressions into empirical learning. Allocate a deliberate portion of the creative hour to learning by making, where new knowledge is applied immediately, publish drafts, release prototypes, or present mini-lessons. This accelerates mastery and externalizes learning for validation. For cognitive load management, chunk complex concepts into atomic modules and use visual frameworks, mind maps, one-page summaries, to reduce retrieval friction. Finally, plan synthesis sessions each month, longer integration hours, where you connect disparate learnings into frameworks that inform strategy and creative production. Expertise is not accidental. It's the compound result of structured, feedback-rich, 1-hour practice sequenced into a coherent curriculum. Chapter 14. Influence and Communication, Making Your 1 hour Persuasive and Visible. An hour spent in solitude is powerful, but influence converts private gains into public advantage. Influence is the ethical art of shaping outcomes by communicating clearly and persuasively. Design a portion of your hour for message architecture, crafting concise, high-impact communications that move people to action, a persuasive email, a short video, a public thread, or a pitch. Start by identifying the single core claim you want your audience to accept. Structure messages with clarity, concise hook, 3 supporting points, and a single call to action. Apply the currency principle. Make it easy for others to benefit immediately from your content, a quick tool, a template, or a clear next step. Use narrative to humanize logic. Stories are cognitive shortcuts that produce empathy and retention. Test messages with micro-audiences. Send a draft to 3 trusted peers or post to a small list and measure reactions, iterate quickly, and scale what works. For live influence, practice short-format persuasion, 60-second value statements, 3-minute talks, and written pitches no longer than a single scroll screen. Visual clarity matters. Use simple graphics, short bullet lists, and bold calls to action. Build a predictable publishing rhythm to compound trust. Weekly short essays, regular audio drops, or a consistent newsletter cadence. Influence also requires listening. Use 1 hour per week to read audience feedback, comments, and questions, and convert them into content or product pivots. Lastly, build a reciprocity engine. Each influential output should include a low-cost offer that invites collaboration, a prompt, a request for a single piece of feedback, an invitation to share. Chapter 15. Decision Discipline. How to use the hour to make better, faster choices. Good decisions compound, poor ones erode progress. The 1-hour system includes a decision hour template to resolve important dilemmas quickly and with clarity. Begin with a decision framing protocol. State the decision in 1 sentence. Enumerate explicit options, no more than 5. List critical variables, time, cost, reversibility, and upside, and set a fixed decision horizon, immediate, 24-hour, 7-day. Use a simple decision matrix to score options against the variables, apply weights for strategic importance, and calculate a preferred choice. For high uncertainty issues, deploy an experiment-first rule. Select a small, reversible test that delivers quick evidence within your hour or the next few days. This shifts decisions from prediction to data collection. Use pre-mortem exercises for larger bets. Spend 10 minutes imagining how the decision could fail and identify mitigations to reduce catastrophic risk. Define kill criteria before execution to prevent sunk cost fallacies. Delegate ruthlessly decisions below a threshold of impact, e.g., less than $100 or less than 30 minutes to reverse, should be fast-tracked to a standard operating rule or delegated to a trusted lieutenant. For strategic decisions, document the rationale succinctly and commit to a review date where outcomes are compared to expectations. Archive decision templates and outcomes in a simple deck, so you build a library of decision patterns that speed future choices. Finally, cultivate a bias audit. Quarterly, list decisions that underperformed and identify recurrent cognitive errors, overconfidence, confirmation, bias, loss aversion, and put simple checks in place. Seek contrarian input, require a dissenting voice, or force a one-night pause to reduce these predictable errors. Decision discipline converted into a routine hour prevents paralysis, accelerates action, and preserves optionality across your projects. Chapter 16. Tools and Minimalist Tech. Stack what to use, what to drop, and how to reduce. Digital friction. Technology can amplify habit or fragment attention. The minimalist tech stack reduces friction and preserves cognitive bandwidth for the 1-hour mission. Audit your tools. Keep one authoritative calendar, one primary note system, one single to-do list, and one lightweight habit tracker. Consolidation reduces context switching. Duplication increases cognitive tax. Choose tools with clear separation of concerns a calendar for time blocks, a document tool for long-form work, a lightweight task manager for next actions, and a distraction blocker for focus windows. Automate routine flows, use simple scripts to move completed tasks into archives, schedule recurring 1-hour blocks and auto-log session completion in a spreadsheet. Use templates aggressively, email, reply bundles, project scaffolds, and session checklists that make starting trivial. For communication, limit synchronous channels, set a single hour for focused collaboration, and route all other communication to async systems with guaranteed 24-hour response (SLAs). Embrace read-later queues and batch content consumption to non-prime hours. Privacy and security matter. Use password managers, two-factor authentication, and encrypted backups so your digital infrastructure does not fail you. Regularly prune apps. If you haven't used a tool in 90 days, archive it and test whether anything breaks. Finally, design a minimal startup flow for each hour. Open a single document, set a 60-minute timer, and execute the pre-session ritual. The fewer clicks between intention and action, the higher the completion rate. A minimalist stack is not asceticism. It's practical design that converts digital capabilities into actual outcomes. Chapter 17. Community, Mentors, and Accountability Partnerships. Expanding the 1-hour ecosystem. Human systems accelerate individual practice. Structured communities and accountability partners multiply the effects of the 1 hour by providing feedback, resources, and social pressure. Create a small cohort, 3 to 6 peers, with weekly 10-minute public commitments and a shared channel for daily check-ins. Use the cohort for rapid feedback, exchange of micro-resources, and peer accountability rituals. Mentors provide leverage. Invest a fraction of your financial hour to secure short advisory calls with experienced people, and prepare crisp agendas so you make the most of limited time. Reciprocity keeps relationships alive. Offer concrete help in return for reviews, introductions, or time. Design accountability contracts. Define specific outputs, a verification modality, shared doc, video recording, and a penalty or reward system. Donation to a charity on failure, shared dinner on success. Mix structured facilitation into the community, monthly hot seats, quarterly demo days, and rotating peer coaching sessions to sustain engagement. Leverage public accountability at scale through modest visibility, weekly public updates on a blog or newsletter that converts private discipline into reputational capital. Finally, protect the community norms, prioritize psychological safety, enforce constructive critique, and celebrate imperfect progress. Social ecosystems are the oxygen for long-term habit survival. Choose them deliberately and cultivate them consistently. Chapter 18. Scaling habits, from 90 days to a life system and preventing plateau. The 1-hour model scales when you learn to iterate, scale, and reconfigure habits across years. After the first 90-day compound shift from short-term sprint mode to a life system, use quarterly cycles focused on different skill clusters, maintain a portfolio of ongoing projects, and institutionalize learning through documentation. Prevent plateaus by rotating training intensity, injecting novelty through cross-domain exploration, and periodically increasing the challenge threshold. Stretch goals. Use meta-practices, rituals about rituals, monthly system audits, annual retreats to recalibrate vision, and a public accountability metric like a yearly showcase. Build redundancy. Train alternate habits so life shocks do not collapse momentum. If travel disrupts your prime hour, have a portable 30-minute protocol that preserves streaks. Preserve curiosity by scheduling experimentation weeks where normal outputs are paused for discovery. Finally, frame progress. As compounding identity change, long-term success is not measured by single achievements, but by the persistent activation of your best self through protected, repeated hours. When the 1 hour becomes a life system rather than a temporary tactic, improvement is no longer an event, but the steady architecture of a life designed for growth. Chapter 19: Resilience and Adaptation. Keeping the 1 hour system through life's disruptions. Life is noise, illness, travel, family crises, job changes, unexpected obligations, and the slow erosion of motivation will all test any system you build. The difference between short-lived bursts of improvement and lifelong transformation is resilience, the capacity to preserve core practice under stress and to adapt the system pragmatically without losing its directional force. This chapter gives you a durable, actionable resilience architecture for the 1 hour method, practical rules, fallback protocols, and psychological framing that let the habit survive interruptions and compound across decades. First, accept that disruption is normal and design defaults that anticipate it. Create 3 operational states for your 1 hour, normal mode, low energy mode, and travel crisis mode. For each state, define explicit micro-protocols. Normal mode is your primary template, the 5 to 50 to 5 or 5 to 50 to 5, 5-45-10. Structure you already use. Low energy mode is a shortened high-value variant, 20 minutes of the single highest leverage task or 2 times 10-minute sprints with a brief recovery in between. Travel crisis mode is even smaller and intentionally preservational, a 10-minute movement or breathwork and a 10-minute micro-learning or connection action. The key is parity of intent. Each mode preserves the identity signal "I show up," even if the dose changes. Second, create a continuity ledger, a simple tool, spreadsheet, or habit app that records effort type and mode each day. When disruption occurs, the ledger provides a non-judgmental record that lets you see whether you are maintaining the minimum practice even under duress. This shifts the psychological frame from failure to preservation. Third, automate the low-friction scaffolding that prevents backslides. Use calendar automation to reserve your 1 hour block for at least 3 months in advance. Link in your fallback protocol text so that when life changes, you swap to the low-energy template with a single click. Preload your workspace with travel packs, a lightweight portable kit, a short PDF for study, a resistance band for movement, a compact notebook, and a self-checklist. Having tools ready removes the excuse of "I can't do this away from home." Fourth, build social contingency. Recruit 2 accountability allies who commit to a simple rule. If you miss a threshold of sessions, they'll nudge you. If a crisis occurs, they'll provide short, specific support, a single hot meal, a quick check-in call. Social scaffolds reduce the cognitive load required to restart. Fifth, institutionalize micro-recovery rules. When you miss 3 sessions in a row, do not punish yourself with overcompensation. Instead, trigger an immediate 3-day micro-challenge of minimal, achievable work that restores identity, 3 consecutive 20-minute sessions that rebuild the habit without exhausting reserves. This prevents the all-or-nothing trap where a small failure becomes a long abandonment. Sixth, Maintain mental flexibility. Be willing to change the hour's focus in service of long-term goals. Chapter 20. Mastery and Legacy. Turning 1 hour practice into impact that outlives you. If the 1 hour system is effective at producing personal transformation, the final question is larger. How do you scale that transformation into mastery and leave a legacy of value? Chapter 20 reframes the 1 hour from private discipline into a disciplined engine for expertise, institutional contribution, and intentional legacy building. Start with mastery. Mastery is distinctive competence applied consistently over time, and the 1 hour provides the cadence for that accumulation. Move from skill acquisition to systems creation. Translate what you learn into replicable frameworks, teaching modules, or documented processes. Use a deliberate teach-to-learn loop. Every 90 days, synthesize your learning into a short teaching artifact, a workshop, a concise guide, a recorded course unit. Teaching forces clarity, identifies gaps, and multiplies your impact because the act of instruction converts individual practice into distributed capability. Second, create durable artifacts that compound: books, open-source projects, templates, recorded lessons, or procedural playbooks that can continue to deliver value beyond your daily labor. Allocate a fraction of your creative and execution hours specifically to artifact creation with the express purpose of scaling influence. Third, institutionalize mentorship. Design a mentorship pipeline where you mentor a small number of people intensively and then empower them to mentor others. Use the apprenticeship model, short, high-frequency interactions early, gradually shifting to autonomy with documented skill checks. Mentorship multiplies returns because it turns one practitioner into a node in a broader network of capability. Fourth, build small institutions, project, microschools, cohorts, or collectives that embody your practice and values. Institutions survive individuals when they encode principles into playbooks, rituals, and governance structures. Start small, a recurring masterclass, a cohort-based course, or a community lab. Document decision rules and success criteria so the institution can be stewarded by others. Fifth, steward financial legacy with intention. Align capital with mission via clear reinvestment rules, endowed scholarships, or a tiny foundation that funds projects aligned with your life's work. Financial design prevents drift and ensures your effort converts into opportunities for others. Sixth, cultivate public accountability for longevity. Publish annual stewardship reports or learning journals that summarize experiments, failures, and durable lessons. Public documentation holds you to long-term standards and provides a resource for successors. Seventh, invest in succession. Identify people who can carry both skill and values, mentor them, grant them increasing responsibility, and create explicit succession protocols so that systems remain coherent when leadership changes. Eighth, design your final artifact, a compact manifesto, a set of public templates, or a curated curriculum that distills the essence of your 1 hour system into an inheritable form. Make it practical, modular, and teachable so future stewards can adopt and adapt it. Ninth, measure legacy in cascading metrics. Number of people trained, institutions created, measurable improvements in communities served, and the replication rate of your methods. Legacy is empirical when it is observed in others' lives, not only in memorials. Finally, approach legacy with humility. The goal is not immortality but usefulness. Create platforms that elevate others, support emergent leaders, and redirect credit to collective achievement. Mastery and legacy are the natural endpoints of disciplined daily practice. When your 1 hour habit morphs into teaching, institution building, and public stewardship, The compound benefits ripple outward and persist beyond the span of a single life. Conclusion: start small, think decades. The core promise of this book is simple and stubborn. One protected, intelligent hour every day, repeated with systems, tests, and social scaffolds, compounds into capabilities that change your life and the lives of others. Start tonight. Choose your primary domain. Commit to the ritual and protect the hour as if it were your most valuable appointment. Over months, you will notice discrete gains. Over years, you will see a different person looking back. Master the hour, and you master the long arc.